What is pink and fluffy? Pink fluff. What is blue and fluffy? Pink fluff holding its breath. What is brown and red and fluffy? Half a dog. So, I'm alone in Finland. This, as you can see, is EVE Online, but it's not what we are talking about today. Some stuff has happened, so I thought I would go through a couple of little things. This video, for those of you that don't like disjointed videos, will be all over the place, but will be short. Essentially, it's a thank you. I have reached over 1,000 subscribers, and that helps me to do one of the things that, for me, is the most important thing that I've wanted to do with this platform since I started. And that's to be able to stream on YouTube. For those of you who don't know, it is capped to subscribers that have over 1,000, YouTubers that have over 1,000 subscriptions. So, now I have the ability to do that. I'm looking at doing some streams. Now, for those of you that don't know, I'm not going to go into too many details, but I have a thing called complex post-traumatic stress disorder, and essentially if you take PTSD and amplify it to the point where it starts causing physical pain and physical damage, for example, for me, stress of any level, like receiving a small bill, can cause muscles to pull tight. And in some cases, this has actually landed me in hospital with a suspected heart attack, or it has landed me, it has caused me, my left shoulder to pull so tight that the center band on my I think it's a deltoid muscle, the delta muscle, whichever it is over the top of your shoulder, the central band in it actually got so tight it started to tear. So there was a lot of damage there, which was caused by general stress. It's a bollock of a thing, but it also means that depending on what's happening, it's not always easy for me to make videos, for me to concentrate on what I'm doing, or sort of to put two sentences together, as you can see. So with that being said, I'm not going to say that I'm going to be streaming on a regular basis yet, but I am trying to aim for Sunday mornings at some point. Obviously I'm in Finnish time, so basically we all use the EVE clock. So a good example is it's 11:34 local to me, which is 8:34. So I'm sort of looking at the idea of starting around about 6 o'clock on Sunday mornings, EVE time. But I'm not entirely sure of that just yet. So it won't be this weekend, I don't think. But it's something I'm going to try and aim for and try and build up this sort of regularity. But again, this is thanks to the guys that have subscribed, and the guys that have watched, the guys that have commented, all you guys. I've had so many sort of comments and critiques and helpful viewpoints and things like this, and I try and engage with a lot of them, and I think that's fantastic, because it's, if you want to put an opinion out there, then it's good to have it challenged to make sure that your opinion's right. And this is something that I quite enjoy for myself. But also, the whole point of this for me is primarily for the sort of EVE audience. So that isn't just players. That is also taking aim at some developers and trying to get opinions out there and visible that are from the sort of silent majority. And I say the silent majority because the vast majority of EVE players don't engage in EVE social media. And you see it when they ask questionnaires from CCP, and it's an understandable thing. It's, how do you engage with us? Are you on Facebook? No, I don't want to give money to Meta. Are you on Instagram? I don't want to give money to Meta. Are you on Twitter? No, I'm not a neo-Nazi. And those sort of things. So I think it's a better way of doing it, where a video's out there but you get people's points in below, so that if it happens to go in front of a developer and they go, I don't exactly agree with that, I think that's a personal attack, I don't think they have good valid points, but there's a series of comments underneath that are along the same line. And especially when, as somebody pointed out the other day, that they were commenting with the same name as their EVE account, and they had been playing since the very start, so they got 2 years on me in EVE, and they've gone, well, this is what I think, and blah blah blah. I was like, well, that's perfect, because somebody that's reading that is sort of getting that information. Now, with that being said, I have also applied back to the EVE partnership program, Now, I did this before it was a partnership program. I applied, and my channel wasn't at a particularly good state for that just yet. It sort of met the criteria, but only just. And a lot of my videos were quite negative. So it's understandable they said no. However, I've applied again. And obviously, those of you that have seen my previous videos are now laughing and going, you really think they're going to sponsor you? No, to be honest, I don't. I hope they do, because I'm broke as shit, so it would be nice to have a helping hand. And I absolutely love Eve, and some of the developers that do happen to know me know how long I've been playing, and in some cases playing with some of them before they were developers. It's something that I think it would be a good sort of image if they're going, well, this is critique, but it's honest critique. It's somebody who genuinely feels this, and it's a perspective that we need out there, which is the whole point of the channel. So there is negative, there is positive, and I'll see what happens. If it doesn't come to anything, then there is no hard feelings. I can completely understand that, and it's not going to affect me making Eve content. I am still going to be making some other content for some other stuff that I enjoy and I love, and games that are coming out, and I am really waiting for Death Stranding to be released. And if you say it's been released on PlayStation, no, there is no PlayStation, ignore that. But I am waiting for it to be released to be able to play it, because I absolutely love the first one. I think it's fantastic, but it's also a very difficult game to stream because of the fact that it has music in it that is copyrighted, but you can't sort of take it out, you can't put it down or anything like that. For those of you that don't know, there is no musical slider in the game, so the music kicks in at its own sort of elemental moments, and you've got to be very quick at silencing the game or something along those lines. So we'll see what happens, but that's something I'm looking forward to. I've got a few other games that I'm going to go through. I noticed the other day, I've seen a lot of Planet Crafter on Worst Pre-Made Ever, and I noticed that I actually own that game, and I have owned it since it was in very early access and clean forgot about it. So I might do a bit of that. I've got Void Crew, which I still haven't started yet. I'm looking forward to doing that. But there's going to be sort of a general, for me, a general push to make a little bit more varied content, but not abandoning Eve at all. I have something going on in Space Engineers currently. Some of you may have seen the video that I did previously, and what happened after that was my hard drives detonated, and I lost a good 7 weeks worth of footage from Space Engineers alone, and I had to recover a save file and go through a whole load of palaver and nonsense and all of that stuff to get it back to the point where it was playable and leading on from that same point. But it means that I have sort of played maybe 100 hours into that, and then restarted from zero. So I've got a little bit of sort of foreknowledge of what's going on and a better idea of it. I've started to film it already. I've already got 4 days worth of footage, and if you're wondering, that's a lot of footage for no video. It's because a lot of it is like harvesting and stuff like this, so it's just going to go into a time lapse. And I like playing the game, but it's also something that, because it's kind of automated the way I'm playing it, sometimes it's just on, and it's actually on in 2 separate computers, and running by itself with the stuff harvesting, and I sort of hear an alarm when something attacks me and run back to the computer. So I'm trying to film that and make it something that is interesting to watch, but it's kind of an ongoing project. But here's hoping there's some more stuff coming out there, and honestly, hitting the 1,000 subscribers has been something that was really nice, because I've been sort of hovering around about 800 and something for quite a while, and then in the last, well, I basically hadn't been putting out that much content, so it's understandable I was hovering, but in the last little while it's crept up, and I think I was at 960 or something like that, and then a few of you guys saw the last video and went, hey, we'd like to see more of that. I don't quite understand why, but I am very thankful for that. So that's the idea, and it's given me a little bit of a kick up the backside and motivation to push some stuff out there. So thanks for that, because you're not just helping sort of I don't know, promote the channel, put the channel out there, whatever. Make sacrifices to the algorithm gods. But you're also giving me the motivation that people are enjoying this, so that's something that's quite nice to see. So thank you very much for that. And it genuinely affects my mood as well. It's something that's, I don't know, I think it's the affirmation that we all get. For those of you that have sort of mentioned it, the alone in Finland thing isn't exactly a misnomer. I'm in a situation where there is nobody that I really know that I can communicate to in my own language. That being English, but also Scottish English. What you hear here is me being sort of politer. If you don't understand what I'm sort of getting at, search for COD gamers and Scottish COD gamers. That's what you're looking for. Have a look at that and you will hear people far closer to my original accent than me, the way I speak nowadays. So when I'm talking, even when I'm talking just like this in English to people here that are fairly fluent, I still have to think about words and phrases that are very Scottish and don't appear in English. They don't appear outside of Ayrshire in Scotland, or outside of Coinnin in some cases. So it's something that has been quite a severe isolation, and then there has been other situations around my life where essentially from COVID for the last 5 years, with the exception of phone calls and one visit from a family member, I haven't spoken to anybody that is that sounds the same as me, that's a pure English speaker. And I have spoken to, there's a few Finns around about that have very good English, but the vast majority of people in the local area, if they do have English, it's not at a high enough level where I don't need to think about what I'm saying. And it's very isolating, and with other circumstances that have happened and some discrimination and harassment and all of that nonsense that's going on, it's been very isolating, and sort of my life has been sort of forced online for it. I do have some family around about me, but also my family speak in a second language to me, so it's an active thought process just to talk to my kids, which is not particularly easy. And you can imagine raising two kids that are the same as me, that are fairly ADHD. I say fairly ADHD, it's a diagnosis, it's on or off. There is no such thing as a little bit ADHD, but one of them's inattentive, one of them's hyperactive, so there's a bit of variation there. But it is also very isolating because you can't always explain things in the depth that you would want to in a second language or a third language. So that's something that's the reason for this, and I just thought I'd explain that because some people have sort of, oh, you made mention of having kids, that's not alone. I can tell that you don't have kids, because trust me, you can be in a room full of 50 people and still feel entirely feckin' alone. But that's where this has come from, and that's where this is sort of out there. And it's also part of the wanting the comments and things like that. The interaction is something that I enjoy, and it's something that's a little bit fresh and things like that. Doesn't matter what language it's in. Also, if you are listening to this and you do speak a second language, Google Translate is almost fantastic now when it comes to the comments and things like this. Feel free to put the stuff in your own language and I can sort of translate and interact. That's a standard thing for my computer. I thought it was a standard thing for everybody's, but I'm aware that some people don't have it. But more than happy to have that stuff out there. But yeah, I am Scottish, I'm not Finnish, in my language. I don't speak much Finnish. I'm trying, I'm slowly learning, but again, I'm ADHD, so I'm not particularly good in the classroom when it comes to learning, and trying to get the motivation to sit down and read through a dictionary is... I think I'd have more motivation to put my knob in a blender, to be honest, but that's just me. So, even though it is a very interesting language, it's the way that it's grammatically built is actually very similar to coding. It's quite funny because if you don't know the Finnish language, you don't know much about the history, there is a very funny problem with it, where in English you have multiple different sources, like sort of coming from French or Latin or German or Nordic languages. There are different roots for certain words and things like this. But for the Finnish language, the funny thing that appears is that when it was written down originally, it was written down wrong. And that is particularly funny. For those of you that don't know, Finland used to be owned by Sweden. It used to be conquered but in part of the Swedish Empire. And the person who wrote it down, while he was born on mainland Finland, he was officially a Swede, as they all were, and he was a Swedish talker. And he saw some errors in the way that people were speaking. And so he tried to correct them. But they weren't errors, they were different dialects. And in some places they would be considered different languages. So whereas like in Scotland you've got different accents between Edinburgh, Glasgow, I live in Ayrshire, ours is fairly solid, but it changes every couple of miles. He decided to try and write that all down as one thing. But some of it was different languages. A bit of it came from Karelian, some of it came from Savon Muro, the Savonlinna accent, some of it was Turon Muro, the Turku accent. And then some of it goes so far as to be closer related to Sami than it is to the actual Finnish languages. So he wrote all of this down, but then 100 and so years later, Finland got its independence from Russia. And it was the beginning of the last century, and I have forgotten the year. Apologies, I don't have my ear defenders next to me because they do have it written on them. But when Finland gained its autonomy, they decided that they wanted to unify the culture, so they used his stuff as the basic. So written Finnish is its own language essentially, and when you're studying spoken Finnish, it is very different from the written, but it's also very different depending on where you are. And the most common one you see is the Helsinki dialect, because that's where all of the media is made, the kids programs, all of that jazz. But if you're in Eastern Finland like I am, it is quite an exercise to try and translate what they're trying to teach you in a class to what you hear literally outside that class. I even have one teacher at one point who was very Savon Muro, so very Savonlinna accent when she spoke, but she wasn't when she was teaching. So she would almost change her language when she was teaching. But I wasn't living in Savonlinna at the time. I was down the road in a place called Sulkava, which is a glorious little place, a glorious little village. But so what I would hear in that area was completely separate to what was in Savonlinna and separate to what this woman was teaching. So I'm sat there essentially trying to learn 3 spoken languages at the same time, which is just a nightmare. It's fantastic, it's very interesting, but it's also very, very difficult for somebody who's not academically inclined. You put me in a heavy machine, I can drive it, no problem. Doesn't matter what it is, I will pick it up in a couple of hours, I will be competent in a day, and I will be very good after a week. But if you put me into a classroom to get me to learn something by rote, Jesus, I am awful at it. And it's really funny because ADHD is considered a learning disability. And I had my IQ tested in university and it peaks just into the genius level. So I am literally a genius with learning difficulties, which, how do those two things go together? It's just fantastic to me that that's a thing that can exist. But yeah, so you can imagine the stress and all of that jazz around about it. But with all that being said, that's kind of what it is. Now, lastly, I have put out some of the things on YouTube because you can do channel subscriptions and things like that. And I've put out one at €3 and one at €6 because Patreon's still a thing. You can still join that if you wish. I did have a Patreon, but then I wasn't making videos for a while and he understandably ran away crying and screaming. He didn't, he just stopped subscribing. But still, it's very thankful for that came through. And for any of the stuff, I wanted to explain that the stuff on YouTube at the moment, I don't quite know what to put out there. And if somebody was to donate, what they would want to donate. So if you have any thoughts on it, please put it down below. But at the moment, it's specifically targeted at, I think it's $2.99 and $5.99. So €3. It always does the 99 things, I can't change that, but €3 and €6, and that is because €3 is one Brothers Cider, so one drink in the local shop. And the Toffee Apple Brothers Cider, if you can get it where you live, it is an experience. It is something else. It doesn't taste like normal cider. It's so sweet, it's unreal. And if you tip a can of it into your gravy at Christmas when you're making a turkey gravy. Mwah, chef's kiss, it is fantastic. But that's what it's priced for, so 1 or 2 ciders a month at the moment. I might put in more if somebody requests it, but at the moment I don't really see that happening, so I'll leave it as is. But as per usual, everything that is there is sort of, I am very grateful for, I'm very thankful for, and it is a little bit of help. And with the jokes about the cider aside, although it won't be a joke for the first or second people that subscribe, but for other people that are subscribing, my intent is hopefully to put it towards stuff for the channel. For instance, a little bit more storage for videos. I've had that sort of gifted to me because Samsung drives broke on me, but my idea is to put a little bit more towards that. I'm not going to upgrade any of my hardware anytime in the near future because I've seen too many horror stories about the new stuff's breaking and all sorts of things. So I'm sticking with my rig, which is, the main one's an 11900, the secondary is an 11500, and I'm running 4070 Ti on my primary computer and a 2060 Super on my secondary, and I'm going to stick with that for the far foreseeable future. So it won't be going into those kind of upgrades, but maybe at some point if I get 120 euros, which is what the storage hard drives cost, I might put that into backing up and keeping a bit of the footage, because at the moment I have to remove some of it for the other things I'm doing. I don't need much else for streaming. Yes, I do have a webcam. No, I'm not putting it on. Somebody suggested the what is it, the VR stuff. I mean, if it's some of the stuff that I've seen the likes of the Senua Sacrifice capture, I would consider it, but at the moment putting a cartoon out there, that stuff just kind of creeps me out. But yeah, so there may be ideas, and if you have ideas, please put them down below. I am always willing to hear them. I like sort of comments and ideas, and I like critique and criticism. I like compliments and stuff like that because I'm human. But also, if you have ideas and things like that you'd like to see, put them down there. I might do them. I did start a while back about doing the tips and tricks, and I started with Eve missioning. I have just bought, let me actually bring it up here, down through my ships. If I have a look for Nemenbal, I think it's where I'm looking. Let's have a look through this. Nemenbal. So in here I just bought a whole load of ships for PvP, because I thought it'd be funny. So we have a few different ships there. I do have a few other ships in this particular place that were for like transport and PI and stuff like that. So I happen to have 2 blockade runners at the moment. I don't know why. I also have 2 deep space transports, which explains why I couldn't find one the other day. But at some point I'm going to start with some nice cheap PvP. So I've got a few little things. I've got a modified version of Amy's Heron because I thought this was just funny. I am missing a few little rigs for it, so I need to bring them down because I'm an idiot and forgot stuff. But I'm going to give this little thing a shot. And I've got a couple of just standard Tristans for taking out and doing a little bit of PvP with. And then as you can see here, all of these are the PvP ships. So we've got Hookbill, some Comets, some Republic Fleet Firetails, even going so far as to show Damovic. That's the one. I was looking for that on the screen, I couldn't see it. The other stuff that you can see, this one, there is no fitting in it yet. I need to bring all the fitting down. Oh, there is some bits, but I need to bring the rest of the fitting down. But I'm going to take the Kikimora out at some point, so I'm going to film some of the combat with that over time, so it won't all be in the one thing. But I did just drop $1 billion onto that for cheap ships, so a whole load of cheap ships together. And I thought that could make some interesting fun because I am absolutely atrocious at PvP. So There is a few little surprises in there, and if you haven't seen this particular ship, it is hysterical. But I'm going to have a bit of a laugh and see what I can do, and then maybe we get to the point where we play with the really fun ones. So we shall see. But then I'm going to go through a lot more of the missions and do the videos about the missions. I'm going to do a quick sort of guide for my opinion on Abyssal Space. But here's the thing about the videos I'm making. I'm trying not to step on anybody's toes. If somebody else has put something out there that, like for instance, I can't remember who it was that did it off the top of my head, if it was Evil or I can't remember, but somebody did a video on farming the black glass implant. Now I might do that, but I'm not exactly sure about filming it, because somebody else has done it and I'm following somebody else's tutorial. So I might do it and then link back to their tutorial or something like that. I'm very curious about it, but I'm trying to go through as much content as possible and sort of a little bit more of essentially the advertising, let's call it what it is. The different things that you can do, and even the things that I do on a regular basis, but also things that take me out of my comfort zone. Part of my thought process, if I do get any sponsorship, is to actually set up one character as not as pure pirate, but definitely as negative status or angel status, and go through all of that stuff. I haven't done that on my main, basically because I like my security status. I have positive status to damn near everything. So like for instance, I'm positive to Triglavians and Edencom. I'm positive to everything that you can get in high sec, with the exception of some of the pirates. So that's something that I'd like to maintain, because I don't like jumping into a section of space and immediately being targeted. But if I've got another character that I can use for other things, then my idea with it was to actually run it specifically like pro Triglavian or sort of pro Angel Cartel or something like this. See what I could do with it that way, and get a little bit more of that content in. But at the moment I'm not in a place where I can actually afford to run 2 accounts, and I don't have, while I do have the time to play the game, I don't have the time to grind in the game. So I'm not at a place where I can sort of make that kind of isk. I know that there are ways of doing it, like for instance, if you're running level 5 abyssals constantly. I'm still not that comfortable with them. I've run a few of them, but I'm also in a position where I might need to leave the computer quickly, even at like 2 minutes notice. So trying to get to the point where I'm doing that and I can concentrate on it and make a bit of video about it is something that I'm trying to get there. So that's the idea with applying to CCP for this, because there are some benefits that would allow me to make the content a bit more flexible, but at the moment I don't have any sort of spare coin to put into this. And that's also the idea with the sort of the channel memberships and any of that stuff. So that's kind of it going forward. That's all sort of about me. So obviously there's no EVE Online in this title, and it is just me shifting a whole load of mining ships, because this is one of my mining locations, but I do have replacement drones for the ones that I lost. I'm going to shift some of this stuff down to a different place, because one of the things I've been doing is a little bit of the border mining, specifically because I'm making a few things, and I am trying to get to the point, I'll actually show it here, I'm trying to get to the point where I can build a couple of the blueprints that I have. So for instance, if I go Erlin and then Marauders, Holler Marauder, there we go. I've got these ones that, so I researched these and I've got the stuff, or I think I need a little bit more to build the Lishak. I do have a Lishak somewhere, but I'm trying to acquire some of these things. For some weird reason this isn't showing, but I do have, I've got the 600 of these, and what else is it? I've got 650 or something of the lattice locked, but I need to get the rest of the stuff. A massive coughing fit, and let's continue. But yeah, so I'm trying to get to this point. It's not for profitability, although I do think you can actually turn a bit of profit. If you look here, 7.3 to 8.7, if you got the money, you could turn a profit on these. Again, I do have some manufacturing skills, although it doesn't require much. That's weird. But the main sort of reason for doing this is just because I can. Plain and simple. I like having ships that I've built myself, and while it makes almost no difference when it comes to in-game or CCP or that, it makes no difference whatsoever. It's just something that I like doing. A lot of the ships that I own, that I maintain, are ships that I have gotten the blueprints for and then gone out and built. For instance, all of the Sisters of Eve stuff is stuff, I think you might be able to see, I've still got an Esther blueprint there, where I've managed to build it myself. Most of my T2 stuff, all of my T2, blockade runners and deep space transports are the same ones. It's stuff that I've built myself and usually researched, created the blueprints and that. It's not for profit, it's just because I can. So this is some of the stuff that I'm looking at doing and seeing what I can do with that and pushing it a little bit further, seeing if that's something that is a thing. So with that all being said, thanks for watching. As per usual, comments, especially if you've got ideas and stuff like that below. It's always something I want to hear. I very much enjoy reading it and having that little bit of time to take my brain out of things. So thanks very much. Bye.